They brought in 20 of the world's smartest engineers. Each one failed. The machine stayed broken. Millions were on the line. Time was running out. Hope was slipping away. And then he walked in. No suit, no degree, no permission. Just a black delivery driver with dust on his shoes. And something no one expected, the answer. No one looked at him. No one believed in him. No one even remembered his name. Until he did what none of them could. And when the machines roared back to life, the entire room froze. What happened next would silence the world, change how companies hire, and turn a man they once ignored into a global legend. This is the true story they never saw coming. Stay with me, because by the end, you'll never look at an ordinary person the same again. They had 20 of the best engineers money could buy. Men and women with degrees from MIT, Stanford, and top tech companies stamped on their resumes. They had charts, graphs, and complex algorithms sprawled across every whiteboard. Deadlines were looming. Millions of dollars were on the line, and still, they couldn't solve it. The factory had gone silent. A massive production line had come to a grinding halt. Every minute of downtime cost the company thousands. People were tense. Executives were furious. Investors were circling like sharks. But there was one man no one noticed walking in through the back. No briefcase, no suit, no laptop. Just a black jacket, dusty sneakers, and a name tag that read, Delivery Driver. He was just there to drop off a package, but fate had something else in mind. They didn't even let him through the main gate at first. Security asked for ID. He handed over the delivery slip. The receptionist barely looked at him. Just leave the package by the wall, she said, not even making eye contact to them. He was invisible, another face, another box. Not someone with value. Not someone who could possibly matter to the chaos unraveling just down the hallway. But he heard it, the yelling, the panic, the heavy silence of a team that had run out of answers. And something about that caught his attention. He didn't have a college degree. No one had ever called him a genius. He spent his days navigating potholes and his nights fixing up an old pickup truck in his uncle's garage. But what no one knew was that this man had a brain wired differently. The kind of brain that didn't read manuals, it rewrote them. He didn't look at problems like puzzles. He felt them like music. And when he walked past the malfunctioning system, he didn't see a machine. He saw a rhythm that was broken. And in that silence, he saw something everyone else missed. An engineer brushed past him. Out of the way, man. This is a restricted area. He nodded, stepped aside, but kept watching. A robotic arm was frozen mid-motion. The whole system had been trying to synchronize with an outdated firmware loop. Everyone had overcomplicated it. Code rewrites, full hardware resets. Even a full team flown in from Germany, and yet, no solution but the delivery driver. He crouched down for a second, looked at the wiring under the panel, took a photo of a serial number, and quietly walked back to the front desk. He didn't say anything to the engineers, didn't claim he had the answer. He just called his cousin, a retired mechanic from Detroit, who had spent 30 years working with custom machinery. Hey, you ever seen this model interface freeze like this? Yeah, once, back in '98. Old frequency sync bug. Manual override was hidden bottom right inside panel 2. That's all he needed. He walked back inside. No one even asked what he was doing. They thought he was just lost. Until he reached under the control panel, pressed a reset they didn't even know existed, and the whole factory floor roared back to life. Everyone froze. A robotic arm moved. The machine's word. The system blinked green, and just like that, problem solved. People turned, some gasped. One of the senior engineers actually whispered, "What the hell just happened?" The delivery driver stood up, dusted off his jeans, and said quietly, "I think your problem's fixed." And then he walked away. It wasn't until 10 minutes later someone asked, "Wait, who was that?" A manager ran out to find him, but he was already gone. Package delivered, problem solved, no credit taken, no attention asked. Just a man doing what he always did, showing up, staying humble, and listening closer than most. But the story didn't end there, because security footage went viral. One of the engineers uploaded it anonymously, shocked by what he had seen. A delivery guy just fixed what we couldn't for 3 weeks. The video exploded. Reddit, Twitter, YouTube, news channels. People wanted to know, who was he? How did he know what no one else could see? And most of all, why did no one listen to him in the first place? In that moment, something bigger than a factory fix happened. The world was reminded of a truth we forget far too often. Genius doesn't always wear a lab coat. Wisdom doesn't always speak loud, and the greatest solutions sometimes come from the most unexpected places. The world had questions, and for once, the world was ready to listen, not to the loudest voice in the room, not to someone with shiny shoes or a padded resume, but to the man they almost ignored completely. They found him 2 days later, not in a suit, not on some stage, but under the hood of a neighbor's car, changing out a leaking radiator in a quiet neighborhood in Georgia. No entourage, no security, no idea that the entire internet was looking for him. The local news crew approached him first. A camera rolled, a microphone was held out. And the reporter asked the question that had been burning across the internet. How did you know what 20 engineers couldn't figure out? He paused, wiped his hands on a rag, and gave a small smile. I didn't know more than them, he said softly. I just listened to what the machine was trying to say. That one line, it echoed across social media like thunder. I just listened, because that's what the world is missing. People talk, people interrupt, people assume, but few ever stop to truly listen. The man's name was Marcus Hill. He was 36. He had never finished college. He worked 2 jobs to support his mom and younger sister after their father passed. He never complained, never begged for recognition, never even told most people about the machines he used to build from scratch in his backyard as a teenager. To him, fixing things was never about being smart. It was about being present. It was about paying attention to the details no one else noticed, and in a world addicted to speed and noise, that made him a rare kind of genius. When asked why he didn't speak up in the factory that day, Marcus just shrugged. I didn't think they'd listen. I mean, I was just the guy with the package. Those words pierced the hearts of millions watching. Just the guy with the package. How many times do we walk past someone because of their uniform, their skin, their job title, and assume they have nothing to offer? How often do we silence brilliance before it ever gets a chance to speak? Within a week, the story made national headlines. CNN called it the most unexpected genius of the year. The New York Times wrote, when society underestimates, legends are born. People from every walk of life began sharing their own stories, moments when they were overlooked, dismissed, underestimated. Marcus had unknowingly sparked something bigger than himself, not just a conversation, but a movement. Companies started rethinking how they treat their workers. CEO were being asked, do you know the names of the people delivering your packages? Teachers started telling students, brilliance comes in all forms. Don't wait for permission to be great. And job applications. Some of them stopped asking for degrees altogether, because Marcus proved that curiosity, effort, and quiet observation could outperform credentials. But what did Marcus do with all this attention? Did he sign a book deal? Did he launch a YouTube channel? Did he cash in? No. He went back to work, because Marcus wasn't looking for fame. He was looking for change. And when asked what he wanted most now that the world finally knew his name, he said something no one expected. I don't want a trophy. I just want every kid who's told they're not enough to remember. You don't have to be seen to have value. You don't need a spotlight to matter. Sometimes your gift is quiet, and that's more than enough. Tears rolled down the eyes of viewers watching that clip. Comment sections were filled with, this man just healed something in me. My son needed to hear this today. I was ready to give up, but now I think I'll keep going. Marcus had become more than the man who fixed a machine. He became a voice for every soul who had ever been overlooked, passed over, or told, you're just a. He reminded us all that being just a delivery driver doesn't mean being just anything. It means you show up, you do the job, and you see things others miss, not because you're trying to be better, but because you care, in a society obsessed with titles, wealth, and status. Marcus Hill reminded the world of the quiet power of humility, of how greatness isn't loud. Sometimes it walks in unnoticed, delivers what's needed, and walks away with no applause. 3 months later, an invitation arrived in a plain white envelope. No cameras, no reporters, no attention. Inside it, just a single line: "We'd be honored if you shared your story with us." It came from the World Tech Innovation Summit, a global event where some of the greatest minds gather every year. Inventors, engineers, billion-dollar CEO, the same kinds of people who once looked through Marcus like he didn't exist. Now, they wanted him to stand before them not to deliver a package, but to deliver wisdom. Marcus thought about it for days. He wasn't a speaker. He wasn't polished. He didn't have a slideshow or a suit or fancy talking points. But he did have something no one in that room could offer: the truth. And so, he flew out quietly, no team, no spotlight, just his story in his heart and his hands in his pockets. The auditorium was packed, over 2,000 people seated, lights dimmed, phones off, the buzz of anticipation in the air. When Marcus Hill walked onto that stage, there was no applause at first. Not because they didn't respect him, but because they didn't know what to expect. He wasn't a known face. He wasn't what they were used to seeing. But when he opened his mouth, the room went still. He didn't read a speech. He didn't preach. He just talked, like a man who had lived something real. And he said this: "I walked into that factory just doing my job. I didn't think anyone would listen to me, and they didn't. But that machine, it didn't care about my job title. It didn't care about my skin color. It just wanted someone who would listen." Someone in the back exhaled sharply. Another lowered their head. Marcus continued, "We spend so much time trying to be seen, but we forget to see others. We chase titles, but forget to value the people delivering coffee, driving trucks, sweeping floors. Some of the smartest people I ever met never walked across a graduation stage, but they knew how to fix what was broken because they took the time to care." A few in the crowd were now wiping tears. It wasn't just what Marcus said. It was how he said it, with stillness, honesty, and weight. Each sentence wasn't just spoken. It landed, then came the moment no one expected. He paused, then looked directly at the front row, the same engineers from the original factory. They had flown in specifically for this. They stood up, walked on stage, and did something the world didn't see coming. They hugged him, one by one, and the last one, the lead systems architect, whispered in Marcus's ear, "You changed how I look at people forever." The room stood in thunderous applause. Not for a celebrity, not for a billionaire, but for a man who had shown the world that humility is not weakness, that listening is a superpower, and that sometimes the greatest minds come from the most unexpected places. Marcus walked off the stage and didn't stay for the after-party. He caught a red-eye flight back home, went right back to work, and fixed his neighbor's broken lawnmower that Sunday. Because fame never changed who Marcus Hill was. He didn't chase followers. He chased function. He didn't seek credit. He sought completion. But what came next would leave even Marcus speechless, because 2 months after his talk, a scholarship was launched in his name. The Marcus Hill Quiet Genius Fund. It would support students in trade schools, mechanic programs, and hands-on innovation labs, students who might never wear suits, but would one day save systems, restore cities, and rebuild the world. Not with noise, but with skill. To this day, no one knows how many things Marcus has fixed. No one has a count of the problems he's solved or the people he's helped, and that's just the way he likes it. Because his legacy was never about numbers, it was about a message, a simple one. Don't underestimate the quiet ones, because they're usually the ones holding everything together. So the next time you see someone in a uniform you ignore. The next time you walk past the person you think has just a small job, remember Marcus Hill, the man who wasn't invited to the table, but still brought the answer and left the whole room speechless. Some stories end with trophies, others end with standing ovations. But Marcus Hill's story, it didn't end at all, because what he sparked, still lives on in the hearts of those who were watching. And believe me, the whole world was watching. Not just the engineers, not just the companies, but the dreamers, the quiet ones, the people stacking shelves at midnight, driving through storms, fixing broken things while no one claps. They saw themselves in Marcus. And for the first time in a long time, they felt seen, because Marcus reminded us of something we forgot in the noise. That greatness doesn't need a microphone. That real strength doesn't need an audience. That sometimes the most powerful voice is the one that speaks the least, but shows up the most. A little girl in Detroit saw Marcus on TV and told her teacher, "If a delivery man can change the world, maybe I can too." A janitor in Ohio said, "I stopped hiding my ideas at work. They used to laugh, now they listen." A teacher in Texas changed his lesson plans to tell his students, "Your worth isn't measured by your volume, it's measured by your vision." Marcus didn't just fix a machine. He fixed a belief, the belief that only those with status matter, the belief that wisdom only comes with titles. He shattered it quietly, humbly, and permanently, and maybe we all needed that. Maybe the world needed a delivery driver to remind us that purpose doesn't come from position, it comes from presence. That leadership isn't about standing above others, it's about standing with them. That the real legends aren't always on stage. Sometimes they're holding the door open behind the scenes. Marcus Hill never asked to be a hero, but the world chose him anyway, because when 20 engineers gave up, he paid attention. When the world walked by, he stepped in, and when nobody believed he belonged, he became the only one who did what no one else could. So when you see someone you think is just a driver, just a cook, just a cleaner, look again. You might be staring at the next Marcus Hill, and this time, don't wait until they fix everything before you recognize their worth, because some of the loudest legends are written in the quietest moments. And Marcus Hill, he didn't just fix a system. He rewired the way the world listens.